I like this new angle for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my good side.
Yeah, this is definitely your good side. The other sides were horrible last time. We look like we're kind of twins.
Yeah, where's my 2020 armor jacket?
Oh, it's in the mail. Sorry, it's in the mail.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I think with the COVID, that's why you didn't get it.
Ah, gotcha.
That's what the reason is.
So
So we were a
how's
couple
it going there in
random
Ontario?
people to join. Um, yeah. So how's Vancouver this time of the year for you guys? Kind of your summer, but not really.
The weather's great. Yeah, I was in shorts and a t-shirt the other day. But what's adding to the sunshine is that we've got some even better news. All across the U.S. and Canada, depending on your region, your local health authority, we're all at different states. But um, starting next week, we are reopening our economy.
Ah, nice. So,
So that's
nice. Yes, nice. I think we in Ontario. I think the announcement was yesterday. They made some sort of a broad announcement, and then I think something maybe come out today with a little bit more details. Hello, Master Morrison, Mr. Eamon, Coach Juan Reno. Nice to see you. Looking forward to your YouTube channel stuff coming up. A wealth of knowledge there. Yes, our economy in Ontario and Canada is generally opening up as well.
yes, that's good.
And yeah, hopefully faster than slower, because obviously we want this thing to move along as fast as possible. And for those joining, hello, sir. Thank you for the note, Master Moreno. Always an honor to have you here. For those wondering what we're going to talk about, it is what the title there says, reopening your school, and we have Master Tony Kook here, who is an expert in this. He has 4 clubs himself and has been networking with many club owners over these few months and getting their ideas. And he will be distilling all of that into what he is doing and what he is doing with his locations, and kind of first laying a lay of land as to what's going on in his area, which will be probably very similar to what's going on in the rest of the world, U.S. and Canada. And then he'll be sharing what he's doing, and then you guys can take that and do what you will with it. You can ask questions throughout the whole stream as well, so please feel free to do that and leave your comments in the comment section, and we will try to get to those as well. So it's a great opportunity, again, to speak with Master Tony Cook. If you've been on our live streams, you know the wealth of knowledge he has. All right, sir. So first, maybe just to set the stage, a lay of the land for you in BC. You're in British Columbia, Canada. What is the state of the economy there, and how are you dealing with it for your reopening?
So we have flattened the curve here in our province. Things are a lot better than they were. Our provincial health authorities announced that we will start to slowly reopen our economy starting Tuesday, May the 19th. And what that means is that there are a lot of clubs, including mine, that are now eligible to start going back to some level of normalcy. Of course, there's going to be a lot of safety precautions and restrictions in place. So I've made the decision to actually reopen Monday, June the 1st, instead of Tuesday, May the 19th, simply because there are some extra things that we're getting installed and prepared for in our clubs. In the meantime, we're going to use that 2-week gap to communicate to our students and parents what extra safety precautions and protocols that we're putting in place, so that they're going to feel completely, good about returning to classes. Yeah. Right. And so I was hoping to kind of share some of my ideas, some of the things that we're doing. Maybe it's something that the people listening can implement as they prepare to reopen later in the future.
Yes, and for those listening, we we are going to take some of these notes that Master Tony Kook has prepared. We've actually created a blog post about it as well. We'll update that based on what we hear you say, sir. And again, for those that are on this call right now or on this live stream. The beauty of the live stream is that you get to interact. So feel free to please ask the questions. You won't be interrupting. I know martial arts instructors are very good at listening and not interrupting the people that are speaking, but it won't distract us. Leave it in the comments and we can get back to it. So yeah, sir, please let us know how you're doing it. So you're giving yourself a 2-week leg. So you're not going to do it exactly when they open it. You're going to give yourself some time. And what are some of the things you're going to do?
Yeah. So I read the article that you guys had prepared, and I thought that that was loaded with great information. And I think the first thing and I'm sure all club owners have done this, is that we communicate to our students and parents through our mobile apps, our emails, whatever your communication channels are. You're communicating with parents on a regular, I'm talking weekly, if not daily basis, about some of the measures that you guys are taking. So things like putting social distancing and physical distancing signage in place, making sure that you communicate that classes will be smaller, that there'll be time in between, if possible, one entrance and one exit point, the use of face masks, maybe Taekwondo shoes, Taekwondo socks, gloves, and if you don't already have it, having visible hand sanitizing stations. The point is that number one, you're communicating with students and parents, but number two, when they come back, it has to look visibly different.
Interesting.
It can't look the same. You know, when you go into your local Starbucks or grocery store, you'll see physical distancing signage. You'll see people standing outside the door of some places with face masks and they're spraying your hands. The feel has to be different. Parents and students have to know and feel that you guys have gone the extra step to ensure the safety of them and their children. So they want to feel good. It's not enough just to say, yeah, we're going to ask people to wash their hands. We're going to ask people to stay at home if they're sick. Of course, you need to have that signage and verbiage present, but the feel has to be completely different. When they come back to your dojang, they have to see visually signage. They have to understand there's new protocols and policies in place, and that has to be well communicated. So I think that's step number one.
And one of the things before we get to step number two that we're going to discuss is also the contrary view to this is why should we do this for perception? So I want to get into that as well, because I know a lot of the folks here from the U.S., and depending on what state they're from, have that view as well. And I think we will get to that point also.
Yeah. Perception. So obviously we're taking safety measures to the highest level at our locations. But the reason we're doing that is, number one, to keep everyone safe, including our staff, our parents, and our students. But number two, the reality is optics. It's public perception. You know, there's going to be people walking by your gym that aren't part of your studio. There's going to be friends and family. There's going to be potential new students. I mean, I know it's not going to be as high as it normally is, but when we return to some level of normal, parents are going to want their kids to get back into some programs. They're going to call you. They're going to say, "Do you guys are you accepting new students? And if so, what are some of the measures you've put in place to make sure that it's safe?"
Right.
So that public perception is very important.
Yeah, you can imagine yourself 100% getting that call, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Yes, and this is a little bit over the top, but it just illustrates my point. Yesterday morning, my wife and I went to Starbucks, and Starbucks is taking orders either at the door through a window or through mobile order. So I ordered my coffee, and then there was an older lady behind me, and she asked, "Who's making your lattes, or who's making your coffee?" And there were three baristas, and she said, "No, I want that person wearing the mask and wearing the gloves. I want that person to make my coffee."
Right.
And she wasn't rude. She said it in a very polite, direct way, and she was elderly. Right. So you can understand some of the concerns. So you're going to have parents and students that live with their grandparents. You're catering to some students where members of their family might be a little bit more at risk. So these are some of the things that we need to consider. Yes, it might be considered over the top, but let's be the emphatic masters that we have to be. Let's put ourselves in our parents' and students' shoes and ask ourselves, what can I do to increase the safety measures in my dojang so that people feel comfortable coming back to class? These are some of the questions that we need to ask. You know, when we were operating at a normal level, you know, customer service, student service, we're always asking ourselves, you know, what can we do that would delight our students and parents?
Right.
What kind of class content can I provide that is beneficial to my students and parents? But the question we're asking now is, what can I do to make it safe for my students and parents? What can I do to make them feel safe to return to classes?
Right.
That's the new normal. That's the new reality. We need to continually ask ourselves those questions if we're expecting to get some students back in class. On the BC News the other day, they had a couple of schools that returned back to class, but it was completely optional. And there were two schools. One school had 135 students, but only 28 students returned.
Interesting.
Which means the other 100 opted to stay at home. Another school had over 200 students, but they only had 50 students return. So if that's any sort of indication of what to expect as an industry, if you're a small school operator and if you have 100 students and you say all of a sudden, okay, we're open for class, you know, you might only have 30% return.
Right.
Until a later date. And so that's why it's so important that before we open, that we communicate, these are the measures that we are taking. Take videos, take photos, send just a text message or whatever your communication is. Let them know that safety is your number one priority right now.
Sir, I don't know if it's my audio. I cannot hear you. I don't know if it's my audio.
I can hear you fine.
Can someone leave a comment in the comments? Can you hear Master Tony Kook? Or is it only me? I don't see anybody. Sir, do you mind trying saying something?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
So it's my computer. I'm going to try to just do a refresh. Go ahead, sir, Master Kook.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just reiterating my point. It's incredibly important that safety is the number one priority, and then that's communicated. Are you still sound testing there? Hello?
No, you're fine. I think they can hear you. Yeah. It's just I can't hear you. I'll do something on my end.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So some of the extra measures that we're taking right now is a professional disinfectant service. So we've called in professional cleaners, and we're going to have them do a professional spray of the whole facility. And so this is hospital grade service where they kill 100% of harmful bacteria and viruses from a single service. Professional spray of the whole facility. And so this is hospital. So I'll just continue in case everyone else can hear me, but you can't. Now, this is a financial investment, but again, this just shows that we're going the extra step to provide for the safety of our students and parents. Another thing that we are doing is we're getting UVC filters and UVC lights installed. And again, this is hospital grade that kills any harmful bacteria and viruses. And this is used kind of after hours because you can't look at the lights directly. You have to do it off hours. So we're doing that. Another thing that I had ordered weeks in advance, and I'm still waiting on it, but it's not looking too promising right now, is I ordered large 6x6 Lexon partitions They're basically bulletproof, much better than acrylic and much better than plexiglass. So I ordered about 12 of these stations so we can spread them out throughout the gym floor so that each student will be training in their own sort of glassed off partition so that they're well protected, and each student gets their own individual kid kick or wave master so they can work on that during class. And then, of course, in between classes, all of that's going to be sprayed and wiped down so that the next group can come in. So these are some of the extra measures that we are taking to ensure a successful reopening when we get back to class. I'm just wondering if all the viewers can hear us, because I don't have audio of you right now, Ali. Can you hear me? Just wondering if all the viewers can hear us.
Yes, I'm not saying anything, and there is a little bit of a delay.
Okay.
You're hearing when you're speaking, and I'm hearing. So yeah, audio is fine. It's just on my end. That's what about ozone machines, sir? Have you considered that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you going to get that? Why or why not?
Yeah, absolutely. We've already ordered it. So again, a lot of professional cleaning companies will offer that kind of a service. Now, what I would recommend, if it's possible for school owners, is contact your local association or get a couple of clubs together and call a professional cleaning service and say, we have these locations that would like to have either daily, weekly, or bi-weekly service of you coming in and just spraying down the whole facility to kill all the harmful bacteria and viruses. This is professional. It's hospital level grade, so completely safe. And again, it's a wonderful way to communicate to everyone at your dojang what you are doing to ensure a safe return. So if you do this ahead of time, you take some videos, you take some pictures, you have all of your safety stickers and signage in place, and you show all of your students and parents that this is how you guys are preparing, it's going to make them feel a little bit better for when they come back to class.
Okay, great, sir. And then the class content. Obviously, individual partitions and individual bags, it's going to be much different than what you're usually doing.
Yes.
Any insights or kind of ideas as to how that has changed and what? And,
sure.
Kind of give us some ideas what you're going to do there, and then, and I don't know if you're going to get to this at the eventually. Is how long are you going to run the classes that way?
Sure. Okay. Great questions. I believe it's not just myself, but I believe the majority of our industry have transitioned to online classes via Zoom. And I think it's been quite successful. We've been doing all right with it. And we've been teaching all of our students their required content and curriculum through TV screen, which means that they're not able to kick a target or train on each other. So class content for when we return will be non-contact, so meaning that there will be no physical contact between students or instructors. They can only kick their training equipment, and all of the class content will be modified so that they can still learn on the spot. So they can do their patterns on the spot, they can kick on the spot, they can kick on the target, they can do their self-defense drills via visual techniques. We need to be creative. We have the saying is you want to disguise repetition, so to speak. So you'll have to do that during your classes. So the reality is that class sizes will be smaller, class content will be different, and you need to come up with a new training template that you can share with your staff. So one of the templates that I'm creating for all of my location is a risk management and safety plan and template, and in there included is some of the revised and modified class content that instructors can use in class. So a lot of on-the-spot punching, kicking, body weight exercises. You can still use music, and you can still make it fun, and you can use those long noodles that they use it at the pool, so your instructor can hold it and hold it at a safe distance. Again, it's about public perception. You can't hold a hand target and have your students kick it, because that's too close. You may have to use those pool noodles or some training equipment that allows you to stay a little further away from each other. So I think being creative, and we can come up with some good solutions for the short term.
Yeah, those are great ideas. One of our customers is also doing a similar concept as that 2020 armor customer. So they have the bags, but they're putting the 2020 armor on the bags and then measuring their speed, power, and reaction. And then so they can so they're allowed to interact. So if it gets a closer interaction with them because they can see their actual data. So what he's doing is having all the kicks connected to the TV and then the app connected to it, and then he's able to give feedback in real time. So you get that you're doing the optics thing. You're showing that you're doing something different. You're showing that you're trying, but you're also kind of improving that class because you've never had this experience before. So you're not just going to the same thing that you were doing before, but kind of separated. You're doing something new, providing more value in this new kind of situation scenario.
Yeah, that's a great example of a creative solution. We see your little assistant there.
Say hi. This is my little princess. She's wearing a dress like she does.
Hi, Ella.
You want to say hi?
Hi, Ella.
Hi.
Is that the future CEO of 20?
Yeah. Potentially, yeah. Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
So
maybe before you go into some of the other stuff that you're talking about, one of the questions that came up was how often do you clean?
Well, we clean every single day. The professional service will be coming in 2 times a week. It's expensive. It's not cheap, but it's an investment that we're putting in again to help everyone feel good about returning. My approach is not to open and hope that people return. My approach is to communicate in advance. This is the limit of class sizes. You're going to need to reserve your spot and let us know in advance which days, which class slots you're going to be using. Meanwhile, I haven't mentioned this yet. I think it's going to be very worthwhile for Dojang clubs and owners to consider a hybrid of live classes and continue with some sort of platform of online training to provide for students that aren't ready to come back for class. So maybe they can do 1 or 2 classes a week, maybe 1 class a week, and do 1 or 2 classes online.
Well, yeah, that's another idea that another customer had as well. Is they saw the opportunity to do future privates with private classes and continue that, and you can scale a little bit better with that with less resources. And again, they were also planning to use the VEST for that too, to get some more data. So new opportunities that can come out of it. So for those who are existing 2020 Armor customers here that are watching, those are just some of the ideas that you guys can use. For those other folks who are looking for general ideas, Master Tony Kook, again, sharing some of the stuff that he's doing. Again, please, guys, those watching, ask your questions in the comment stream as we are talking. You will not be interrupting. We'll be picking them up as we do the live stream. Sorry, sir. Go ahead. Is there anything else? Some of the kind of major strategies that you're doing? Maybe some of the things that you're not doing. Here's some ideas that some other companies are doing that you might not choose to do it as well, like face masks, for example.
Yeah, we are actually implementing the use of face masks. So we are asking students to wear one. It's part of the training policy. And if they don't have one at home that they can bring to class, then we will have some on site that they can purchase. So we have some branded face masks that we've ordered with our logo on it. We are also asking that students come in Taekwondo shoes or socks to train, and they're just welcome to bring their own socks. I have contacted a supplier for branded socks as well, but it's a little bit more expensive than I had anticipated. So we've just made the decision to allow students to wear their own socks, or they can order Taekwondo shoes when they come back to class. What are some things that we're not doing? Well, as I already mentioned at the beginning of this stream, is even though we're allowed to reopen on the 19th, we're not opening right away on the 19th. We're taking our time. Because my locations are kind of on the larger scale, we have a lot of students in class. We're going to have to limit our class sizes. So what that means is we're actually finalizing our schedules next week. We're modifying our classes so that they're about 5 minutes shorter so that we can allow a bigger gap in between classes to control the flow of people. We're going to be introducing more classes so that there's a bigger breakdown. So instead of 3 belt classes in one group, it'll be 1 or 2 in each group so that we can allow for as many students to come in with the given class restrictions as possible. So that's another thing that we are doing. And I just got off the phone this morning with a couple of private schools to see if we can sublet their gymnasiums because their gymnasiums are a bigger, wide open space. So that we can potentially have more students either concurrently or at the same time. But I do want to make one point. Right now, the standard is 2 meters. And when you have people standing 2 meters apart outside, that looks like that's a relatively good distance in between. So if you have about 10 people all standing 2 meters apart, for example, in a line waiting to get into a grocery store, that looks like good distancing in between. But all of a sudden, when you have 10 people 2 meters apart inside a room, it looks crowded. So that's another consideration that we have to take into account. Maybe not 2 meters, maybe it has to be 3 meters apart, or even 3.5 meters apart. Because again, it comes down to public perception. Even though we are asking students to stay apart from each other, it's not like we're standing completely still. We're moving around, we're punching, we're kicking, we're extending our arms and legs as we're training. And if you have 2 people extending, they're not 2 meters apart any longer. So, as we're talking about this, there might be some people thinking, man, we need to go overboard. And yes, I think we need to go overboard. Nothing beats keeping people safe, and all it takes is one false allegation or just a couple of bad reviews, and it could ruin your reputation. So if we communicate in advance, here are the standards, we're going above and beyond it, then you're gonna gain public favor.
That's a very good point. Again, you're right, because it's 1 bad review, 2 bad reviews, right? And you're always going to have those people that are extra sensitive, and so you do have to play within that arena. Those are the rules right now, of the game, and you have to understand those rules, whether you personally believe it or not, and you have to follow it and think long term. And so for those watching, again, this is a live stream, but it will be saved after it is done, and you can go back and listen to what Master Kook has said. Some of the questions, I know some people had joined a little bit late, have been answered in terms of the frequency of the cleaning in the classes. Master Mitchell was asking about the sweating and free sparring. There will not be any of that. They'll have individual pods with their own freestanding bag. And then Master Paul Beard, hi sir, nice to see you, former teammate and competitor. Master Tony Cook knows them well. He asked, with only 10 to 12 people in class, are you limiting the number of days they can train?
Great question. So there's some great creative strategies that you can use there. So if your return to class is going to be your main curriculum, so to speak, then yes, we're going to limit it to 2 days per week. We already limit our students to 2 days per week, unless they're part of specialty programs like a leadership or sparring or black belt program. So it'll be 2 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday, Saturday, or whichever way you have your class scheduled. But another approach that you can take to this, as you guys are slowly reopening, is continue with your online platform as your main source of training, and then use your live training as the supplementary um, um service to your students. So what I mean by that is, right now your students can come to as many Zoom classes as they want, or 2 or 3, depending on how you have it set up. Now, when you tell your students, hey, we're coming back to opening classes, but we're only going to be doing semi-privates. So, for example, Mondays will be white belts. So all the white belts, choose your time slots. We're going to limit it to 2, 4, 6, or 10 per class. And so you're going to come on Monday, train, and then for the rest of the week, do your regular Zoom classes. Tuesdays will be yellow belts and orange belts, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can structure it that way as well. And you don't have to set any permanent timelines. You say, for the month of June, this is what we're doing. Or for now, this is what we're doing until we feel safer coming back to a regular class structure in the afternoon. So when they announce the reopening of our economy, all of a sudden our mind switches to the afternoon classes being the regular bulk classes, and then online being supplemental. But there's no reason why you couldn't continue with what you're doing now. Keep your online training as your regular normal, and then use your smaller class live classes as the supplemental. So again, look at your current reality, look at the number of students that you have, and come up with some creative ideas so that people feel safe about returning.
Great point, sir. A couple other questions that came in through the stream. So one, Master Kwame, sir, nice to see you. He's saying, you're investing a lot of equipment here and a lot of money, and are you going to? How are you planning to recoup this? Are you just gonna? Is this a loss for you? Are you planning to increase tuition? What are your thoughts on that?
I won't be increasing tuition. Right now, all of our students have a substantial discount as it is for doing our Zoom classes. So when they come back to regular classes, they'll just be returning to regular tuition. What do I plan to do with the equipment? I mean, the professional services, you just scale it back. Instead of doing it 2 times or 3 times a week, you do it once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or once a month. So that's an expense that I can control. But the plexiglass partitions, I'm not using plexi. I'm using what's called Lexon, which is much more expensive. It's bulletproof, so it doesn't shatter. I can easily resell that because I'm not doing any modifications to the sheets. I'm simply securing it with masking tape, or what's that called, Gorilla tape, or tuck tape on the corners to keep them supporting so that they're freestanding. But when I'm done with those, I'll be able to sell those and recoup a lot of my costs. The extra equipment, I'll just keep it. There's always ways that I can use those. I have several locations, so I can allocate that throughout our locations. And yes, I mean, it is an investment, and it's an expense that we normally wouldn't have to incur, but I'm asking myself, what is it going to take for students and parents to safely return? My hope is, once we make the announcement that these are the limits on class sizes, my hope is that they're full and that they're waiting lists, and that we instruct students and parents, okay, in the meantime, yeah, you can train online. That's how I'm approaching this, and that's why I'm going over the top with the safety precautions and the protocols.
Right. It's an important thing. I know a lot of club owners are concerned obviously about cash flow, and in times of in awkward business times, or times when business is slow, a lot of people also dramatically just don't spend anything. and sometimes that's also not a good strategy to kind of come out on top. You do need to take that risk and put in that extra capital. Sir, one of the questions from Master Jim Morrison, who's a BJJ lover just like yourself, and I know a lot of schools have BJJ programs, and I believe you have one that's dedicated only to BJJ. What are you doing with that, and how are you doing with how are you dealing with that? I sent a video earlier on my Facebook post. If you guys saw that. That was a joke. It wasn't a real strategy. Going around spraying people with the disinfectant. What are you doing for that group?
So that spraying disinfectant is actually part of the professional cleaners that they'll do after hours. So that's one of the strategies that we're taking. For jiu-jitsu, nothing changes. It's the same. You have the physical distancing parameters. You have all the signage. You're communicating with students and parents now. Whereas with Taekwondo, you can punch a kick on the spot. For jiu-jitsu, we ordered a bunch of training dummies. So these training dummies are like real life figures. And the problem that everyone's going to have, you might not have this problem in Toronto if you're out east, because most of this is being shipped from out east, is your timelines. So we ordered, and they said that it will be delivered to us between June 1st and June 28th. So who knows? So it's a combination of what we call Bara Fit, where it's like cardio kickboxing, body weight exercises, solo drills, and then training on the dummy, so they can practice their arm bars, chokes, and sweeps and whatnot, guard passes on the dummy. And you know what? Again, just making it fun. I think people are going to finally feel good about coming back to a class. Our online training for jiu-jitsu has not been nearly as popular as it has for our online taekwondo, because the nature of the discipline, it's very easy. It's easier to teach taekwondo strikes and skills online than it is jiu-jitsu. So those are the strategies that we're using for my jiu-jitsu location, is the use of training dummies. And if you go on Amazon, they have a whole array of dummies for purchase, ranging from $99 to $300. And they're all in a kind of a synthetic leather material, so it's easy to spray it down and wipe and clean it in between classes. So if you can purchase a few of those, and again, just explain that to your students and parents, you will be good to go.
Right, and that expense you can use later on anyways, right?
Yeah.
That's an investment that if you haven't made now, it's just you kind of accelerated that anyways. So
you can also make your own dummies as well if you want to save costs. Yeah.
I was just going to suggest that sand is free. Last time I checked.
Right. We're stuffing it with pillows, so that's actually been pretty popular. Yeah.
Yeah, much better to punch pillows and sand for sure. And you guys, you might be noticing Master Tony Kook is a very calm demeanor. You might not think he's in any pandemic at all. But I want to specifically bring that out because also your how you react to it and your demeanor and all that, people will pick up on that. Master Tony Cook's businesses are hurting just like all of ours.
Yeah.
How you choose to react to it will be perceived by the students, by the parents. So by having that calm, thoughtful vibe that you give out, that will come out in their perception of when they return. So I think giving that is very important, and as you said, Master Tony Cook, communicating that. So one of the challenges we have when we communicate with 2020 Armor is we prefer, anytime you communicate with someone face to face, it's much more higher bandwidth of emotions, feelings, everything than not. So one of the ways that actually just what this pandemic has helped us with is people are comfortable with Zoom, right? Comfortable with video conferencing. So if you can send your messages and your communications through some sort of video in any way, so you can do your emails, you can do your text messages, make sure they receive them. But even just the video, like a 1-minute video, hey guys, this is what you're doing. As you said, you're going to show what the club is going to look like. But also, when you show that, give them a sense of confidence. Of you put this thought into it, a sense of calm, because that is what that your gym will represent. And it's important to not forget that subtlety. It sounds like it's something that's all very easy and whatever, that's not really that important. But if you're listening to Master Tony Cook right now and you feel a little bit calmer and you feel like you can do this, well, it's just the way he talks. And that's why
I
I
don't
think
know about that. Yeah.
it's something that's easy to kind of forget. But I truly believe the way you say something and what you say, I think about 50-50. You know, it's you really have to consider the way you say something. So we have a few, you know, about maybe 10-15 minutes left on this live stream. Let me see if I can go through the questions, see if you had any. Yes, the Master Paul Beard, another great question. How will you stagger your real in-person classes versus with your online classes?
How would we stagger it?
Yeah, like are they going to be any difference? Are they going to be tied together? Are they going to be exact same content? Yeah.
So my plan is to have some of my instructors teach the live classes. So we're going to a modified schedule. And concurrently, at the same time, we'll also be running live classes. So we'll have a separate location where the instructors are teaching their live classes. So students basically have a choice of whether they're going to come to the live classes or they're going to do the Zoom classes, or if they miss a live class, then they're going to do a Zoom class. So that's the way that I would do it. Now, if you don't have the staff to do it, perhaps what you can do is you can make pre-recorded videos, or maybe you can allocate certain days. For example, Zoom classes will be in the morning, or Zoom classes will be Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Fridays or Saturdays and Sundays. Live classes will be Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you can stagger it in that way. The way that I'm doing it is we're going to have live classes Monday to Saturday, and we're also going to have Zoom classes, live online classes Monday to Friday. That's the way I'm going to do it. And again, I think you just need to look at your current reality and come up with a creative solution that's flexible, but also realistic for you to implement on your end as well. Maybe you have one staff, maybe you have two staff members. The advantage with smaller class sizes is that you're not going to need as many instructors on the floor. So whereas I normally have about 4 or 5 instructors on the floor, now I'm only going to realistically need 1 or 2 instructors on the floor, and then the other instructors can do the Zoom classes online.
Thank you, sir. Hello, Master Halama, sorry. Nice to see you from Hawaii. I'll kind of see you. Master Kook, Master Halama asked, your online classes, are you making them available for other schools? Are you only restricting it to your students? I know you have multiple schools. Are you sharing that content to the schools? What's that strategy for the content?
Yeah, all of our Zoom classes are all of our clubs together. So all of my Taekwondo classes all of my Taekwondo locations come together for the Zoom classes. And then my Jiu-Jitsu school is completely different. They have their own online classes as well. When I go back to regular afternoon classes, it'll continue. So each location will have their own separate live afternoon classes, but it'll just be one centralized online live training for all of our students. That's my plan for me. That might be totally different for you guys. And I know there are other multi-school owners right now that have separate Zoom classes for each of their location because students are used to their instructor. But the majority of multi-school owners that I've been talking to have simply been combining. And so they've been getting some big numbers, so they have to just break down those belts to monitor class sizes online.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Those are great questions. So, folks, keep on asking them as we come into the last bit of this live stream. Sir, any other, I guess, from a reopening strategy? I know you're talking a lot about immediately what to do. What about in 3 months, 6 months? Is there a big change in, we got back to school, obviously is a big time. Well, summertime is a big moment, and it could be slow because you don't have necessarily any camps, or it could be big because you do have the camps, and then September when back to school comes up. Any change in strategy on what you would normally have done, in these types of periods versus versus now with the COVID as a factor.
Yeah. There's just a lot of changes. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Um, Everyone's thinking about the summer. July and August are typically our biggest months for summer camps. We used to run summer camps every week and have 20 to 30 kids in each of our camps. But now with this new reality of 2 meter physical distancing at all times, I have a meeting next week with some of my staff members. We're going to discuss A, if we're going to do it, and B, what are some of the modifications we need to make sure that it's successful? Because you could imagine a typical Taekwondo class is under an hour. So if you have 10 to 15 to 20 students, you can safely manage that for an hour and then send them home on their way. How are you going to do that for 6 hours, which is a typical all-day summer camp, so 9 to 3? So that's something that we're going to strategize about. I know there are some listeners out here that have an after-school program, and so some of the questions that they're asking themselves is, are you allowed to do the after-school program? And B, if you are, how are you going to pick them up so that they're maintaining that 2 meter distance? Or perhaps if they wear face masks and gloves, then perhaps during transit, you're allowed to keep them closer together, depending on what your local health authority says. So my tip in that specific question is to contact your local health authority. Say, we have this after school program, and a lot of the parents rely on us so that they can go to work. And we're providing an amazing service for our community that allows families to do the things that they want to do. What are some safety measures what are some best practices that I can implement into my program so that I can do this, carry it out in a safe manner? Do you have some guidelines that I can share with my staff? Do you have some resources that I can share with my parents? Here in British Columbia, we have what's called Work Safe Compensation Board. So they're in charge of any injuries and how to keep employees safe. And they have some wonderful resources and guidelines that we can print out and post and share with our students and our parents and our staff. So depending on where you live, I would encourage you to contact your local health authority. Say, listen, we're community leaders in our city. We have martial arts programs for children, youth, and adults. What can we do to ensure a safe return? Have you got some extra resources? And the experience that I've had working with Vancouver Coastal Health, Fraser Health, and WorkSafe, and I actually have a phone call with our Minister of Sport later this afternoon, is that everyone's been incredibly helpful. Their primary agenda is keeping people safe, but at the same time, we all want to get back to normal to some degree. So how can we do that in a responsible manner? So my experience so far is that everyone's been incredibly helpful. No one has been restrictive or defensive, so to say. We've all been working together. And I think it's what you said earlier, Master Kufor. It's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. You know, instead of asking the question, am I allowed to do this? How come I can't do this? This is my program. What resources do you have that can help me carry this out in a responsible manner? Any resource would be helpful. Have you got some extra guidelines on best practices so that I can keep my student body safe? So that's been my experience so far, and I encourage people to do that. If you haven't already done so, don't just sit back and rely on the news. Be proactive. Go out there. Make phone calls, make emails, and network and see what you guys can do to ensure a successful return back to classes.
Yeah, fantastic advice. Yeah, again, contacting local health authority is a great reason that you really should be taking advantage of, and just making good relationships with them, because down the line, maybe that relationship can come to fruition in different ways, right? Now you become the club that they know So maybe there's something you can do jointly together, some sort of recruitment events or something like that, because they know that you follow their guidelines or they can trust you. So you built that trust. So that also really, because you wouldn't have talked to your local health authority before, right?
Yeah, totally.
Whereas now you have, and now you've built that relationship. Maybe that can come to different types of fruition down the line. So
when you do that, when you contact your local health authority and when you get helpful information, advice, immediately communicate that to your students and parents. You know, so and so Taekwondo Academy have been in contact with our local health authority, and these are some of the guidelines that they have given us, so we are going to implement that. Or we are in constant communication with so and so health authority, and these are some of the measures that we are going to implement, and we will continue to do so. So over communication to your students and parents are important because you want to give them that sense of security and have them feel, wow, you know, our Taekwondo school is totally responsible, and you know what, they're on the ball. But if you're not communicating anything to your students and parents, they might start thinking, you know what, well, what are they going to do to make sure it's safe? But if you take the initiative and announce that in advance before your opening, then it's going to probably help them feel a little bit more secure, you know, kind of ease some of the concerns that they have. So,
okay. You guys have a few more minutes with you, Master Tony Kook. Has been generous to give us an hour of your time here. Before we wrap up, we have about 5 more minutes. So please ask your last questions as we wrap up. Sir, while we wait for those last ones to come in, hello, Master Sungcho Kim. Always nice to see you. Mehdi, always good to see you, old friend.
Is that Master Sungcho Kim?
Yes.
He's an amazing leader down the stage. Best of class. Yeah, whatever advice he gives, you'd be wise to follow.
So, sir, while we wait for the trailing or ending questions to come in, any sort of last thoughts for everybody as they take on this monumental, new, never been done before grand reopening, right? Because it's a new thing for a lot of everybody, right?
You know, we said this on previous streams. We're not always in control of what happens to us. The only thing we are in control of is how we react to what happens to us. I recently did a couple of online color belt tests. And I'll be honest with you, like everybody, you know, you have your questions, you have your doubts. Is it going to work? How are they going to receive it? And it was a tremendous success. Everybody loved it. We made the best of the situation that we had. And we have another online test coming up this Saturday. So I'm really actually looking forward to it because you learn from the first experience and you realize ways that you can make it better so that it's a positive experience for your students and parents. So my last piece of advice is basically just a general piece of advice, and I don't want to sound like a self-help guru, but truly embrace what's happening and tackle it like the black belt master and leader that our students and parents perceive us to be. You know, we're masters of resilience, we're masters of perseverance. We teach our students when they're faced with a problem to run towards it and look for solutions instead of quitting, instead of avoiding the problem. So we're presented now with this big challenge and never experienced before reality. Embrace it, you know, look for solutions, communicate that with your students and parents. We're looking forward to this, and together we're going to get through this together because our primary concern is the development of each of our students through the platform of martial arts, and even this situation is not going to stop us. We're going to be resilient. We're going to persevere through this together with your support, and just complimenting the parents, letting the parents know that you guys have shown a lot of sacrifice. You've made a lot of examples of indomitable spirit for your kids, and we commend you for that. And let's continue working together so that we can come out even stronger through all of this.
Yeah. amazing. Luckily, this will be recorded, so I encourage you guys to go back to those last 2 minutes and write down exactly what you just said there, because you're absolutely correct. We forget that, when we're deep into something, the value of what we're doing, or even just the scale and scope of what we're doing, and to remind us, our own community, that, and our parents that, and then showing that as an example to the kids, like, this is why we put you into martial arts in the first place. This is the example of that. It will be another reason for them to be knocking on your doors to let them come into your school. So, very good point. Let's use this as an opportunity to show what the values of martial arts are. Because as we all know, obviously, it's not just for self-defense, and it applies to all parts of life. I think
one last comment there, Master Before. I notice.
Yes.
I noticed right behind you, there's a lot of bronze and a lot of silver medals. Not a lot of gold there. Those are. I remember those years, the Canadian National Championships.
Well, for those who have gotten all their value out of the call, you can drop out now, because I'm going to start talking some smack talk to Master Tony Kook there, because there's a lot of goals there. I think it's maybe the reflection that you're not kind of seeing, but there's quite a lot of goals there. Do you have the same amount? I don't know if you do, sir. Do you?
I'm guilty. I'm guilty of having just as many silver medals as you.
Oh no, I got more gold. They're just behind all the other ones. But if I recall the number of national gold medals, I believe I outnumber you.
I had never had the privilege to grace the mat as you. You were always fighting in the faster weight classes. I don't think I would have been able to catch you.
One day, sir. One day we'll get on the mats together and just have a good time. That time is coming soon. We will get back to traveling again, for sure, within this year and even the next few months and weeks. So
I understand. I understand, Master Guffer. You've been incredibly busy, and I know you've even through this whole COVID-19 pandemic, you've been planning a pro event for 2020. I mean, that's pretty exciting.
Yes, there's lots of amazing things that we're working on, sir, behind the scenes. Our own tournament, our own virtual tournament, our own actual physical tournament as well. Our headgear is coming out this year. Our app, all that, how it tracks all the metrics. We're continuing to innovate. We are not slowing down on that. We're doubling down on that. As I mentioned before, we could have let staff go and slow down R&D, research and development, but we decided not to. So we are continuing to innovate, and when things get back to normal, we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff that other people are going to want to copy, as they already have.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Are there any last minute questions there?
There was this question. There is, I think, one last question that came in. Parents going back to work needs to be sorry about Master Kwame is asking, does anyone know, I'm not sure if you know, so you actually might be the best suited, because I know you have a lot of folks that you're in touch with. Is the government of Canada looking to specifically add more funding to our industry beyond the $40,000 loan and the salary coverage? Have you heard of anything else in the works?
What they did announce was the 75% rent subsidy to landlords. They were supposed to release some more information on that, but as of yet, I believe they haven't. And I do believe that they also made a recent announcement that they're going to extend the wage subsidy to a longer period. So, again, a lot of the support that we've been getting here in BC have come through the federal government, but also through our local authorities. So I don't know how many school owners have had an opportunity to speak with their local MLA, but your local MLA is actually a wealth of information and resources. So if you contact your local representative in your riding and let them know that you're a small business owner and a community leader. Here are some of my concerns. Is there any extra information on that? And if you want to take it one step further, contact your local minister of small business or your local minister of sport and say that, I mean, look, we have one of the greatest professions in the world. You know, we're not just Taekwondo teachers. I mean, we're community leaders. We change people's lives. So you contact them, say, we are a local self-improvement, fitness, martial arts development center. We create community leaders. We inspire our youth and our teenagers and our families. These are some of the concerns we have, and you know, I'm doing everything I can to stay afloat. Are there any added resources or levels of support that you can offer to help not just myself but every other school in our area? So if you haven't already done so, I think people just automatically assume that, you know, politicians are this separate group of people that you couldn't have a meaningful dialogue with. But at times like this is why they're here. They're here to represent us and help us. And as I said earlier, all of my conversations with the health authority and politicians, it's been wonderful. They're doing whatever they can to help us get through this. So I'd encourage people to do that.
Yeah, great point. Hi, Master Annabelle, Master Michael Suho, great to see you from Sweden. Master Georgia, thank you for your comments. Sir, as always, you've come with a wealth of knowledge. Everyone appreciates you. Thank you to everybody for joining and asking your questions. So I know you got a lot of things to do and you got some calls coming up. Again, thank you for your time. And I'm sure we'll do another one soon as you kind of reopen and see how things actually went. You know, and I'm sure you're going to learn some things from that as well, right?
Yeah, I think I'll be opening sooner than the rest of the people in Canada and in the States. So, you know, I'd be more than willing to share some insights, and if I could redo some things over again, what they would be, so that people can learn from that and be better prepared for their own openings.
That's a great point. Exactly. You're going to be ahead of some folks there, and then we'll share that knowledge. Thank you, sir, for making the time to do that for us again. Appreciate it, sir. I'll give you a close up of my medals again. There they are. In case you didn't see it, I'll change the angle for you, and I'll send you an email with the exact count.
Okay, I would really appreciate that. I'll make that my cover photo.
Time for you. I'm going to end the live stream here, sir, and then I'll chat with you in a second, okay? Bye, everyone. Thank you for making the time to be with us here today.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.